flower subscribers. It's Sarah at Main Street Florist, and I hope you're excited that you got your flowers this week. And I wanted to send you a quick little video about them, just a little bit of care and handling tips, and then also how to arrange them. So you got lilies this week. The type of lilies that you got are called Asiatic lilies. Asiatic lilies are grown mostly in South America. We do get some from California certain times of the year as well. Asiatic is the type of lily. There's other varieties as well. There's Oriental. A lot of times what you'll see growing maybe in people's yards around here, those are going to be Asiatic lilies. They come in lots of different colors. So here I have white. They almost have a little tint of green to them. They come in pink, burgundies, oranges, yellows. They're definitely one that come in a lot of different colors. So they're really fun to work with. One of the big things about lilies is when you receive them, they may not be fully open. So this guy, he's just starting to open. He's looking really good, but you can see he's got a couple of buds that are not open yet. Some of these smallest ones may never open. But this one, usually out of like these stems, you should at least get 2 big blooms that are going to open up. So this guy will as well. Once they open, you're going to see that there's pollen on them. You want to remove the pollen. Typically, I would suggest taking a Kleenex or something like that on your hand to grab the pollen. I'm a florist. My hands are going to be filthy all the time, so I'm just going to grab the pollen and pull it off. So you leave kind of that center stamen, but you're going to take off the pollen. The pollen will stain your hands. It will stain anything that it touches. So before we send out an arrangement with lilies, we always make sure to pull out that pollen. What you don't want to happen is that you do up your vase arrangement, the pollen hits your table or your tablecloth and stains it. If you happen to get pollen on your hands or pollen on your tablecloth, the best thing to do is sort of dust it off. If you get to the lilies early and remove the pollen, they're still pretty rubbery. They haven't kind of gotten powdery. Once they're powdery, they even become more of a mess. So the earlier you can get to that pollen, the better. But if you get it on your tablecloth or something, do not wet it. That's only going to make the stain set more. Take something like a pipe cleaner or a paintbrush. We use lots of times like the little foam paintbrushes and just sort of dust it off. That's going to be your best bet. Your hands, it may just be there for a little while. You can soap and water a lot. But lots of times if you see me around town and I've got yellow stained hands, now you know it's from lilies. So before you arrange, you want to remove all that pollen. You also want to remove any of the foliage down on the stem that might hit your water. Usually I leave these top ones as long as they still look nice and fresh. Sometimes on flowers, the foliage is the first thing to look bad. So if you notice, after a couple of days, your vase of flowers, the flowers are still looking good, but the foliage is looking bad, just remove it. Like I said, sometimes they're just the first to go. So you should have gotten your lilies. Like I said, you're going to have some that are going to be open. You may have some that are still pretty tight. Give it time. That just means that you have the freshest flowers possible. They're going to continue to open for you. Try to keep them out of a window. You don't need to put them anywhere extra warm. Just keep them in your home, but they will slowly open. Asiatic lilies typically have a vase life of about 5 to 7 days. So they're going to be one that the arrangement should still be looking good for you, and in a week's time may last even longer. What you also got this time is leather leaf as well. So I'm going to show you just a quick way to arrange with leather leaf and your lilies. So I'm just using kind of a medium-sized vase. I'm going to also do a quick, maybe a second video, so I break it up, of how to do a low cube arrangement too. So with your vase here, you're always going to give everything that you're putting in the water a fresh cut. And what we're going to do with the leather is we're going to kind of collar our vase. Again, we don't want any of the greenery to hit that water line or hit any of the water. That's where bacteria is going to start to grow. But as I place my greenery, I'm going to crisscross the stems. And what I'm doing is creating a grid that my flowers can be placed into, and it's going to help my flowers stand up and be tall, and so I can give my vase arrangement the shape that I want it to. And each time you're layering, I'm kind of layering at a different spot. So like I said, I'm angling my stems You don't want to just layer one on top of the other. You're not really building anything that it can support, or that can support your flowers. But if you're crisscrossing it, it's going to support a little bit more. So we're just lacing our stems. I might do one right in the middle. Kind of cross down through my stems to give me some height. You can also kind of angle your greenery. Everything doesn't have to face straight up. Kind of turn things so that way you've got a nice little grid. If you've created a nice grid with your greenery, you should be able to kind of give it a shake. Maybe I shouldn't shake my whole table here. And nothing's going to move. Okay, then we're going to start with our lilies. If you've got a good grid, you could start right at the top. Let's assume your grid's not as good. We can kind of start at the bottom, and we're going to do that same thing. Typically, if I'm deciding how tall I want my stem and my vase, I'm going to measure against my table and then cut right there. And again, as I place my stems in, I'm going to go in at an angle and lace my stems and create that grid. Move my trash can just for a second. So I'm so happy you guys have joined us as subscribers. Hopefully you guys are having fun with this. As far as arranging the flowers, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be your time to kind of be creative and just try it out. If my videos aren't answering all the questions you have, call the shop and ask. Ask for me, ask for Sarah, or any of our designers here. Any of the ladies would be able to help you out. Also, if you need more greenery, or you want to buy filler, or maybe you want a ribbon or something for your arrangement, we sell all of that, individually. You could just buy ribbon by the yard. You could buy more filler. You could buy more stems. We sell it all by the stems too, so that you can continue to design and do a little bit of this at home for yourself for fun. Okay, so this is just 4 stems that we have in there already. For those of you that got the $35 subscription a month, you're going to get 10 stems. For those of you that do the middle, you're going to get 15. And then I think if you do the top, you're going to get 18 to 20. Don't quote me on that. Anyways, it's going to fill in pretty quickly. So now that I've kind of got my flowers collared around the edge, we can really start to give it some height. And you guys are getting an awesome value with your subscription this month. So once I'm done with this arrangement, I'm going to add it up for you and tell you that if what we would sell it for here in the shop. Because obviously there's a lot more that goes into it. We've got overhead in our business. I've got to pay my employees for their time and their labor of arranging the flowers. Keep going and filling in. Check for any of that pollen. Lilies too, so typically they're going to have about 6 petals. But you can see sometimes, if you look at yours, as they start to open, they can bruise easily. So handle your petals very carefully. When they bruise, they sometimes just get little creases. It doesn't mean that they're bad. They're just not perfect, which none of us are. But you sometimes can get away with just pulling off that petal. But that's just part of nature. Like I said, we're not always perfect. So that kind of gives you a good idea. You're going to have a nice full vase by the time that you've got it all together. And this right here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've only got 7 stems in there. If I were just to price this vase right here, the vase, the greenery, the flowers, this is probably going to be closer to that $65, $75 price point for it to go out the door here. So that just gives you an idea of the kind of value you guys are getting by doing the subscription service and being able to arrange yourself. So I'm going to end this quick video, but I'm going to have a second video that'll be a little bit more of an advanced version of how we can do them in a low cube. Thanks, guys.